In this video, we're going to talk about the creating infinite scroll using REST API and Ajax Request. So what we're going to do is we will go to uh, any of our sites single post page, okay, and we will go ahead and create an infinite scroll over here so that when we scroll down, the previous post is being loaded as we'll scroll down, and the next one thereafter. So what we can do is we can make a child theme out of the 2017 theme. So we'll create a folder called 2017 child theme dash child, and then inside of which we will create a style.css file, and we should put the name as 2017 child, and the template would be 2017, and the text domain would be 2017 dash child. Okay, once we do that, once we create this file with the theme name and template, and then the child theme will be created. And if you go to admin themes, so this theme will be available here, and you can activate the 2017 child theme. Okay, once you've activated that, this child theme will inherit all the properties and the functionality of the parent 2017 theme. Okay, now next thing what we're going to do is we're going to copy the single.php file into our child theme, because we're going to make some changes in single.php. So as we know that if you define a file of a parent theme with the same name in the child theme, then the child theme file will override the parent theme's file. So we will go ahead and copy the single.php, and we will go ahead and paste it over here. And once we pasted that, we'll make some changes in this file. So originally I'll show you how the file looked like, and I will tell you what changes we've made. So originally in the parent 2017 theme, this file looked like this. You had get header, and you had wrap, you had the loop, inside of which you were calling the content .php, which was located in template paths, post, okay, and content.php to display the content of the post. Okay, I'm not going to get into that because this tutorial is basically about the Ajax request and getting the post data via Ajax request, not through this. Okay, so and then we check over here the comment template. So this is going to include the comments.php to display the comments, and then you had the post navigation, the previous and next post links. However, the changes we made into our child theme single.php, we've kept the get header the same, but we have taken the while have post the post loop before the wrap div wrap. So you can pause the video and you can copy paste this if you want. Sorry, you can go ahead and write the same set of codes which is written over here. Okay, so you have a div of the wrapper, you have the div primary, then you have main, inside of which I'm using the content of the post, and then I'm going to go ahead and create this extra bit of code. So this extra bit of code is different from what was there in the original 2015 single.php file. Okay, so inside of this we are creating a nav element with the class of navigation, post navigation, load previous, and we have a span which says previous post. Then we have a div of navling, inside of which we have div previous, and inside of this will actually return an object. So if I go ahead and print this out, so I'll just show that to you. Let's say if I print this, so whatever is returned by this will be available in this particular variable. So get previous post basically will return an object of the previous post. So if I print this previous post, this should get me an object of the previous post. Let's click on one of the posts, and you can see, sure enough, we have an object of the previous post, which is called the post ID, post author, post date, title, excerpt, So all of the information for the previous post is available. Okay, so let's delete this. Okay, since this is got the object, we are creating a link for the previous post. This link will contain the previous post title, and when you click on it, it should take you to the previous post. Okay, so that's why href is equal to get permalink previous post ID. So we are accessing the ID property of the previous post object, which means this one. So okay, so this will be 716. And then we also creating a data ID attribute, and the reason for this is because in case if the jQuery in JavaScript is available, we are going to go ahead and um, make sure that this link doesn't work when it's clicked, so that we can go ahead and retrieve data via Ajax Request through REST API. Okay, so if JavaScript is not available, then this will be the post title of the previous post. When you click on it, it'll take you to the previous post. However, if the JavaScript in jQuery is available, then with the help of JavaScript, we will get hold of this previous post ID and retrieve the data via REST API Ajax Request for the previous post and display it, and we will disable this link. Okay. All right, now obviously we have the get sidebar and get footer and things like this over here, because that's what is pretty much going on in this particular file. Okay, and then we go to our child theme and create functions.php. Now, as we know that when we create a child theme, it is important that we include the style.css for the parent theme as well as the child theme. If we don't do that, then obviously we won't get the same style for the child theme as it is there in the parent theme. Okay, so that's why we will go ahead and create a custom function, tst, it's the namespacing, and then we've got our wp-enqueue style function. We've given it a unique slug. This slug should be the same slug which is defined in the style.css of the parent theme while including that. So if you go to parent theme 2017 functions.php, and if you check, this is the same slug basically. I'll just show you 1 second. wp-enqueue style. Yeah, this one, 2017 style. Okay, so this is same. This should be the same slug. And get template directory URI basically returns the path up until the root directory of the parent theme and not the child theme. Okay, so hence this will include the style.css for the parent theme, and then similarly we will call this function again. This time the unique slug will be for the child theme style.css, and get theme file URI returns the URI path up until the child theme child theme root directory. So this is the difference between these two functions. If you go ahead and echo out this function, and just echo out a br tag, and also echo out this function, you will notice why do I not have br tag? Okay, here it is. So you can see that the get template directory URI returns the URI path up until the parent theme root directory, and the get theme file URI returns the URI path up until the child theme root directory. Okay, so in this way we have included these two style sheets. We also need to create a JavaScript file for our JavaScript functionality. So I've created a directory called JS, inside of which you create a JavaScript file called previous.ajax.js to handle the Ajax request for REST API. And we need to include that as well. So we are checking with this function is single, which means if the user is on a single page, because we are creating this functionality on a single post page. Okay, so if the user is on single.php, which is single post page, then go ahead and use the wp-enqueue script function to include the previous.ajax.js file, and we are adding the dependability to jQuery, which means jQuery will be loaded before this, and we are setting this to in footer is equal to true, which means that this JavaScript file will be loaded in the footer just before the body tag ends. Okay. What we also need to do is, in order for us to get the post data through REST API, we need the REST URL. Now, you can download this particular this particular extension from Chrome in case if you don't already have one. This is called Postman, and this is to help you test the results of the REST API URLs. So in order for us to get the data for any particular post, we go ahead and use this particular root URI, which is http wordpress.test. This is basically the address for my site. Okay, wp-json and then wp-v2, this is the root. If I put post over here and /id, then I will get the result of that particular post. Okay. So Ajax will handle this request for REST API to get the data of that particular post. Okay, but this is what we're trying to achieve. So we need this URL. So to get this URL, there is a function in WordPress called REST URL. So I'll go ahead and explain this entire function to you. So we need this data like the post ID, theme URI, REST URI, all of this data, we need it on the JavaScript file so that we can send an Ajax request to get the data via REST API. So what we can do is we can use the WP localized script function, which is a WordPress function. It accepts 3 parameters. The first is the handle. Now this handle should be the same name as it is for the JavaScript file in which we want the this particular object available. So this function is going to create an object called post data. So this is a variable name that we can change, and we can, this is a custom variable, we can name it whatever we want. So since it's regarding the post data, so we've named it as post data, and it's going to create an object post data, and the value of that object will be passed as a third parameter, and this will be an array. So all of this data in the array will be available under the object. So it will become post ID will be the property name, this will be the property value, property name, property value, property name, property value. So that's how all of this information will be stored inside of post data, and a post data object is created with all of this value, and this entire post data object will be available to previous.ajax.js because we have passed the same handle name as we have used while enqueuing this particular JavaScript file. So ajax_js, ajax_js. So this should be exactly the same, and that is the link between these two files, these two things, this particular handle, and that's how it figures it out that it needs to send the post data object after creating to this particular file. Okay, so now if you go to our previous.ajax, there are a lot of things going on over here. Let's get rid of everything for now. Okay. So since, as we discussed, that this function will make the post data object available and all of these properties and values available in previous.ajax file, which is this file. So now we can create a variable and say that this is equal to post data dot post ID. So this is the object and this is its property, post ID. And similarly, we have the theme URI is called post data dot theme URI. So we are accessing this object dot theme URI will be equal to this. And similarly, REST URL will be equal to post data. Post data is this object dot REST URI will be equal to the REST URL. Okay, let's if we go, let's not worry about these two for now. Okay, let's console this out. If we console this out, then what we should get is so as you can see, we have a theme URI. Okay, http wordpress.test wp themes 2017 child, and then we also have the REST URI, and then we also have the post ID. So all of this information is available to the JavaScript file in form of an object, and we have just consoled that out. Okay. Also, coming back to this function, rest URL function basically returns the URL to the rest URI to the rest URL. Okay, so this is going to return the URL of your site, and WPV2 will be appended to that. So if you notice rest URI, you can see that this is the site address, and then WPV2 is appended to that. We require this so that we can get the data of the post via the HTTP request of REST URI. Okay. As we also discussed earlier, what we will now want to do is this link that we created earlier, which was taking us to, one second, let me just comment this out. Okay. Earlier, so this link was created by this bit of code, which is the previous post, previous post, previous post, and then this link was created with the post title and the permalink. This would take me to the previous post. If I click on it, it takes me to the previous post. Again, I have another post that takes me to that. Okay. So in case if JavaScript and jQuery is not available, then in that case, this link should work. However, if it is available, then we should disable this link because we want to get the post data via Ajax Request REST API. Okay. So what we're going to do is we'll get hold of this particular link. So load previous is the class of this nav. Okay, so we'll get hold of this, and inside of this we have a tag. So dot load previous a will get me this particular element, which is the link that takes me to the previous post. Okay, so we'll get hold of that, and we'll say dot attr href is equal to javascript void 0. This means that the href will be equal to undefined. Okay, and in this way the link will get disabled. Okay, so the moment JavaScript is available, then in that case href will be equal to javascript void 0 will be equal to undefined. So javascript void 0 calculates to undefined. The reason why we're using javascript void 0, so that if the page is refreshed, then in fact the page should not be refreshed when this link is clicked. Otherwise, if you don't use this, then the page will be refreshed even if it is blank. Okay, so now if we go ahead and check, refresh it, inspect element, you can see that the href has now become equal to javascript void 0. Okay, so now if we click on this link, nothing will happen because it's disabled. Even the page will not get refreshed because we've used the javascript void 0, which will be equal to undefined. Okay. So next thing what we need to do is we'll create a function called previous post trigger. This is the link element, this link element that we've just got stored in this variable. Okay, and then we are setting up an event listener dot on click get previous post. So we are going to create this function, and we're going to say that whenever this link is clicked, call this particular function. But the reason why we are enclosing this event listener and this event handler into a function, because when this page will be scrolled, then the next post will come and this link will move down. Okay, so it will move down in DOM, hence this needs to be refreshed every time a post is every time page is scrolled down and next post comes and takes its place. So we will call this function so that this is dynamic, and it shouldn't get stuck to just one particular link. Okay, because the link position will change in the DOM when the page is scrolled down. That's why we enclose this in the function. Okay, so that whenever this function is called, new and fresh event listeners apply to whatever link is available at whichever position. Okay. Now in this function, what we're doing is we need to get the ID of the previous ID of the post. Okay, so if you remember in single.php, we had created a data ID attribute, and this was containing the ID of the previous post, not the current post, but the previous post, because in order for us to get the data via REST API Ajax request, we need to have the post ID. So that's why we are creating a variable called previous post ID, and we are saying that the element previous post link, which is equal to this dot ADTR data ID, is going to give me the value of the previous post ID, which means it's going to give me this value, which is the previous post ID value 714. Okay, once we have this particular ID, all we want to do is basically create this kind of URL. So it should get me this URL from this point up until this point. Okay, and then post, and then the previous post ID. So to do that, what we can do is we already have the REST URL. If you remember, we had done a console log for this, and we had the path up until wp-json wp-v2, which means we already have the path up until here in form of the REST URL variable, which was given to us by the REST URL function inside of the object that was created by WP Localized script. So now we can use that, and we can concatenate that with posts and previous post ID, and finally we will get this JSON URL. So if I just go ahead and alert that JSON URL, which is this, then I should be able to get this entire URL to get me the data for that particular post in form of an object. So let's go ahead and refresh the page. If I click on it, sure enough, I have got that entire link with the post ID. So this is the link that has been used by the REST API URL HTTP request. Okay, so we've got that. Now all we need to do is create an Ajax request so that can handle the URL request and REST API request to get the data. So we are doing Ajax request. We are holding this in a variable. The function is $.ajax. It accepts two parameters. First is data type. So we want the data in JSON format, and then the URL will be the URL that we've just consoled, which is basically this URL. Okay, and then since we are holding this in a variable, so that whenever we call other function, then we don't have to do dot after this, so it makes it more cleaner. So then we are calling another function, Ajax request dot done, and we are consoling the object. So whatever data is returned by this URL, so Ajax $.ajax function will go ahead and send an HTTP REST API request and get the data, which is basically this data for that particular post, and that data will be available to us when the Ajax request is complete in form of an object. Okay, so this object will actually return the data. So if I go ahead and refresh the page, click on it, JSON request is made, and sure enough, you can see that the entire data which was returned by this particular REST API URL is available to us in form of an object. Okay, so if I want to go ahead and display that on the front end, I can just append these values to the DOM and have that post displayed. So I can say, the object dot content to get this value, and then object dot title to get this value, and so on and so forth. Okay, and then in case if the request fails, then it should display a message saying error. And in always case, which means once the Ajax request is complete, I should get a message Ajax request complete in console, and that's what is happening. You can see that we've got this message. If we go to network, click on it, and click on response, you can see that we've got the entire data, which is the same data that we've just consoled. Okay, and that's the data available in object. All right, so we'll continue further. So what I'll do is, I don't want this video to be too long, so I will explain the rest of it in the next video. Thank you.